Ini KYC. Alright, welcome to the first round of KDU. To start the motion, to start the debate, I'll invite Prime Minister here. Wait for him to start speaking. Here. Good.
When Malaysia is bogged down in an economic crisis, we still have to find ways to cater to our nation's future. So now we have to understand that our country is facing financial crisis, which means that our country has lack of money to give to these scholars. So right now, when these scholars graduate, they mostly opt out to go overseas, to go to the other countries. But we want to make sure that what we have to understand is right now that Malaysia is facing many problems, as I told you before, financial crisis. So we tell you that if we continue to send these scholars over to other countries, it would more likely to harm the financial crisis that is already happening right now in our country. So when we produce these graduates who graduate here, if we let any scholars to have a scholarship here, I'm sorry. So moving on. Secondly, basically all great graduates receive their education overseas. And you don't see a lot of good scholars who opt out for Malaysian or local universities because of their mindset that makes them, because on every country's mindset, this is most graduates would opt out for other universities out of the country because they think that the education is better. But on our side, we want to incentivize the students to understand that it could be the same, which I will elaborate in my speech. So basically, we want to serve the country right. We tell you that even though that we are limiting these scholars to go out of the country, it's not that we're downgrading these students to stay here in our country, but we want to tell them that it can be the same. It can be the same level as the local universities that we have here in our own country. So it's not. So we also want to tell these scholars that it's not that bad to study here just because it's in our own country, but it's all about the importance of giving back to the country. So basically, we want to show to these scholars that it's not that bad, and it's the same. If we see it, these students still study, they still learn, and we just want them to know that, as I said before, that we want these scholars to study here in our country. So, keep moving on. We want to make, thank you. So we want to make these good graduates to have a good name to our country, because as we see, the actual good graduates that actually are Malaysian tend to graduate and get a scholarship from other countries. So on our side, we want these good graduates to actually graduate here in our own country rather than going to other countries. So basically, we want these good graduates to actually graduate here in our country instead of other countries. Moving on, we would like to make a landmark here in our own country. We want, as I said before, we want these good graduates to graduate here. If we give all the scholars, if we give all these good graduates scholarship to go to other countries, we would be we would be left with bad graduates, but the amount of actually good graduates will not be a lot. So what we're trying to say is that thank you. So we want these. Moving on. We want we want to attract we want to attract other countries because if you view it like this, if these good graduates graduate here, we would want to make an image to the other countries that this country produces good graduates to graduate good graduates here in Malaysia. So we want to pull the attention of other countries to see that even in our country we could produce really good graduates. So because right now local universities are trying to make themselves the same level as these outside universities. So continuing on to this point, on our side, we want other countries to actually see our country as a country who produces actually good graduates. So what is our outcome? First of all, we want Indonesia to. So our outcome has been mentioned before. We want good graduates to graduate here, and we want their success to become a hit in our country. So we tell you that no, you can graduate in Indonesia and still succeed. So basically, the society's perception is Malaysia's educational system is just as good as international studies.
Hello, Prime Minister. Sorry for the problem with keeping time. I will time myself. Yeah. So, leader of opposition candidates. So, at once. Cool. Labor population.
I don't think this debate is about which side, whether it's overseas or when we study here. It's not. This debate isn't about who can succeed and who can't. This debate is about who can succeed the best. Which is why we think our proposition is perfectly legitimate for us to send every one of our scholars to study overseas. What is our policy? We say that we will implement students to come back after they study abroad. So let's say if we find a student to study overseas, we will provide our funding block as to when that person graduates. That person might have to work for the government for a set amount of years. That's the way status quo is, and it's effective. Secondly, we will make scholarship requirements higher. Because we admit that sending all of our scholars overseas will be more expensive. We admit that we trade it off. We justify that by making scholarship requirements higher, and the reason why we think this is okay, because the moment scholarship requirements are higher, this makes students more competitive, more conducive, more holistic, and they want to chase scholarships more. Second, you want to send, we will send all of these students to state university. For example, if I want to send this person to Singapore, if I want to send this student to Singapore, I'll make that person study in a Singaporean university, not a branch that belongs to some other nation. And lastly, we will send these students into the respective fields that they want to succeed in. For example, if this person wants to study this or that, we'll send it to the respective university that specializes in that particular field. What is our stance? We believe that we want to create the most best and holistic, conducive educational environment that can create the most cost-effective and most effective progressive society, not just for short term, but for the long term as well. And what is our end goal? We want to make sure that TN50 is somehow able to be achieved in the long run, and we think this will only be possible through the reasons I will say later. Before that, a few remarks. Firstly, the Prime Minister came up with goals and how they said that. Firstly, the Prime Minister came up with goals three things. Firstly, on how we financial crisis. Secondly, on how we empower other universities overseas. And thirdly, on how sending all our scholars here will provide good representation. I will provide all of them. Firstly, on how we said that we're reversing the financial crisis currently suffered in Malaysia. Firstly, we think that it's perfectly legitimate for you to spend money on education, right? Because it's a legitimate cause. If you're going to be spending money on anything that in Malaysia better, I think the best thing you can do is to invest in the students that can bring the best potential in Malaysia in the long run. Secondly, she also said that the infrastructure in our country is on par with universities. But previously, she also said that we're going through a financial crisis. I don't think both of those things can happen at the same time. Because if a country were to go under a financial crisis, the infrastructure in comparison to other countries will obviously have benefits. Thirdly, on how this will provide a good reputation. That if we provide all our scholars to study in public universities, they'll have a better reputation, create better names, create better connections with the outside world. Firstly, the never agreed with us on why students studying in public universities for free would suddenly create a good reputation. Now here's what I say about reputation. What creates a good university reputation? It's employment. And just because students have a public university degree doesn't suddenly make them more inclined to be employed. What creates students being employed? Overseas degrees, overseas master's certifications, overseas certifications. These are the kinds of things that actually provide reputation, and this is not achievable on the your side because it's these kind of credibilities that we want to create that actually provide better reputation. First argument, before that, sure.
On your side, how do you ensure that the Malaysian educational system actually improves the delivery?
Sorry, say again.
Alright, okay. On your side, how do you ensure that the Malaysian educational system, that local universities in Malaysia, actually improve the delivery?
Well, firstly, I'm looking at A, that's not our work to do. Our side is basically saying that we want to make sure we say that outside education is better than inside education, and for all those things. Secondly, we think that this motion kind of assumes that the Malaysian government already does so that. First, international education brings better and more holistic students. This is our premise. Now, this is how the general economy can progress. Because economies need to globalize, and they need to trade, and they need to have experience, they need to communicate with other countries. This cannot happen if you were to send all of your scholars in a public university, where all the information skills that they will know will be in that one particular bubble, and all inside that one. This is why we think it's all the more worth for you to send it outside and get experience there, and bring it back here and benefit everyone. Why do you think that studying them? Why do you want to send them? And why do you think this is unique in comparison to other universities? Firstly, we think that the skill gaps, the student degrees, and the training experience, and also the student adaptability. When a person is literally studying abroad, the adaptability and the capability of someone being able to work in a harder situation is a lot more likely, right? Not only that, but the credibility and working or getting an overseas degree is a lot higher in comparison to local degrees. This is why we think it's exclusively better. This is why we think overseas degrees or overseas universities is exclusively better, and they have to work with that. How does this relate to? Because right now, when we train and give these experiences to our local students, through the bond that our Malaysian government has already implemented, when they come back to Malaysia, this is when they can benefit not just their families, but the entire economy as well. Because when they come back and work for the government, they can contribute to the economy, they can contribute to our economy, to the skills and the experiences that they so learn from other countries. But before 6, any more KYs. Second argument on how the Malaysian government is obligated to provide the best possible education for our nation. Firstly, what is our premise? You have to recognize that the Malaysian government is in the only position to provide this much funding. This is because overseas universities, abroad universities, don't provide scholarships to international students. I mean, they're international and our national, right? So for example, we don't see Oxford or Cambridge or Stanford or even NHS offering full-on scholarships to Malaysian students, right? The only person who can do this is the Malaysian government. And this is why we think this is because the Malaysian government themselves require and recognize that outside education and credibility is that much better. The only reason why some people are doing it right now is the Malaysian government already recognizes that this is that they need to take in order to progress Malaysia as a nation. So what have we told you in my speech and what we stand here inside the position? It's the opening opposition. We stand that outside education and providing scholarships to sending all of our scholars overseas is the only way and best way to provide and improve our economy, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well. So for all of those reasons, we have never been running to
Cool. DPM. Cool. DPM,
You actually wanted to achieve TN50 in the first place. You have to understand that that sort of progress needs to be happening throughout the whole of Malaysia, not based on individuals' actual efforts in order for them to succeed, and things like so. Currently, in today's debate, we are discussing an issue on how we can make sure Malaysia prospers even more at the end of the day. We understand that these people actually possess their own choice on where they want to study and what they want to study. On our side, we know that it is possible for us to cater to the sorts of courses that they want to study and things like so. And we already have the status quo. Companies who gives out scholarship, yeah, it's a tight scholarship, but they have to come back to Malaysia. All already happening in status quo. Yet these individuals are only making gains for themselves. No actual progress actually happens throughout the whole of Malaysia, right? Even if the progress was actually happening, we tell you that it's to a very minimal level to the point where it might not even happen at all. We tell you that progress needs to be considered, it needs to be considered better at the end of the day. On the outside, perhaps, no take this I just started. So on the outside, we tell you that as much as all of the things that my Prime Minister said, we think that Leader of Opposition has been cherry-picking the things that he wanted to be part of this place, right? We tell you that all of these people tell you that currently Malaysia is facing an economical crisis. Yet we still want most of our students to be able to study and things like that. Putting it in that context, we have to understand that by being in an economical crisis, it means that most students cannot actually afford to continue their studies. However, we want all of our students to be able to continue our studies. Unfortunately, we cannot send all of them abroad, which means that we have to provide the best way possible to ensure that all these people actually get education onto a higher level at the end of the day, right? So in order for us to broaden our givings of scholarships, we have to do it in a way where we can benefit most of them. So although it seems like a form of degradation, thank you, towards these students and things like so, we know that it is not, because at the end of the day, the progress that Malaysia can make, the success that is going to happen under the name of Malaysia is actually going to benefit all of the students as well as Malaysia in the near future. selection.
How do you cater to the best given that the public university has no incentive to improve, given that all your competitors and all your people who run these universities are people of already education?
Alright, so clarification. Number one, we know that scholarships are given to answering that I first on the brief level. We know that since we want to find all the students to study here in Malaysia, it means we have a little bit more money to ourselves, which means that we can actually improve the educational system within Malaysia and things like that, like so. Something I'll tell you later next week. Alright, before I proceed, but those a few clarifications coming on the outside of the house. Number one, we know that scholarships are given to the best of the best, which means that all of the students will not lose incentive for them to study even more and try to get that scholarship at the end of the day. But secondly, even if they were placed inside a university in Malaysia, sure, it might seem like such a harsh position for them and things like that, but we know that it's a choice or a decision that it's justified for the state to make, as we don't have that enough money to sponsor you outside and things like that. Clarification as well, these are scholarships provided by the state instead of by other companies and things like that, right? Okay, so given that these scholarships are provided by the state also has to cater to the fact that it has responsibilities and duties to cater to a whole lot of people instead of this individual alone. And that the success of this individual with the help of the state is also going to be beneficial for the rest of the people living in that state, right? Alright, few buckets. Number one, on how they want, they want the best. This debate is about who can succeed best and things like that. We know that this process of success actually needs to happen inside of Malaysia, because even when these people succeed when they go out abroad and study there, when they finally come back to Malaysia, their capabilities are measured to Malaysian standards. It means you are only good because you stepped out of Malaysia. It means you wouldn't have been good if you didn't step out of Malaysia and things like so, right? So this scopes down and narrows down the Malaysian mind, the Malaysian perspective towards people. It means you are only good, or you are only you only possess the abilities to succeed in life if you step out of Malaysia instead of just studying Malaysia and things like so. On the outside we're trying to destroy this record at the end of the day, right? Okay, alright. So when I feel like that, what sort of progress can they bring towards the educational system in Malaysia? They literally try to avoid that UI. So it means that on the other side, Malaysia is not going to progress educationally. It means that Malaysia is going to have a stagnant progress of their educational system. It means that we're going to rely on other countries to give our students the better form of education at the end of the day. I don't think we happily reject this characterization of it, because that's not how Malaysia is going to prosper to its maximum level at the end of the day. And last example, on how the experience that they achieve outside of Malaysia, and how the experience that they achieve outside of Malaysia is going to be so beneficial that they bring it back inside of Malaysia so that they can share this experience and all that. Well, that's been happening for a very long time, but instead of something good happening, instead of us trying to immerse culture within Malaysia, what's actually happening is this perspective, the negative perspective of rhetoric that generates hate from Malaysia's youth. That tells the Malaysian youth that experience is only good if it's outside of Malaysia. This tells the youth that they cannot have situation where they can appreciate the success or the good side of Malaysia and things like that. Sure.
If I want to study education overseas, right, and they send me to an education project in Oxford, and if I come back and I'm on the university, with me with an Oxford education degree in education, don't you think I can then improve the public university education we have in Malaysia?
Alright, so yeah, sure, we can see that can happen, but we tell you that that's mostly unlikely to happen because graduates from Oxford barely come back inside Malaysia because they have this incentive where they don't like Malaysia in the first place, right? Alright, so on the outside, what can be achieved is number one, nationalism, right? We tell you that it's good if children can grow up without wanting to leave the country. It's good if they learn how to appreciate the country by wanting to stay and wanting to prosper by its education system and things like that, right? And what are the importance of nationalism to be extracted within children? We know that we don't actually generate hate from a young age. We know that these people will actually want to stay instead of want to stay in Malaysia. We know that the youth will actually learn how to appreciate Malaysia and want to make Malaysia better. Because number one, sure, they think that they're trapped inside of Malaysia, right? Number two, even if they have the choice, their only choice left is definitely to make a better life for themselves. But by wanting to make a better life for themselves is to generate a form of success where Malaysia can actually get the same at the end of the day. We've seen precedences of this happening in Japan, Korea, as well as France, and things like that. It's not about wanting to get good grades and leaving Malaysia, it's about wanting to get good grades and improve Malaysia.
I think it was very convenient from the get-go for them to assume that the local education would somehow rather magically from the sky, you'll have people who come and give you ideas as to how to improve your education system. We think that the only way for you to ever benefit your education system is when you have highly skilled individuals who gain credit from overseas and then they come back to your nation. They are the people who can actually bring about tangible change to the education system that side government so wants to protect. So before I move on to answering a simple substantives on how MNCs would want to fund into Malaysia, given that this is given on ops paradigm, this is what we're fighting for, and how is that extremely important. But before that, few rebuttals. Firstly, the Prime Minister wanted to argue how it's more likely for us to harm the current financial crisis. Number one, they didn't prove how their side is going to help solve this economical crisis. They say that the economical crisis will always be a harm. Hence why this debate on the opening half should then be a question of who can solve the economical crisis the fastest. And we think that that answer, I'll give it to you later in my speech. And secondly, on op, we tell you that it's more likely for us to have people who actually change economical crisis the moment you have tangible people of good backgrounds in terms of education, credited people working in your nation. I'll prove to you why this is a benefit, but before that, sure.
Highly skilled individuals who graduated outside Malaysia and came back to Malaysia or exist, yet you don't see any tangible benefits being extracted from them. What makes you think that these people will actually have the incentive to be?
Okay, so here's a comparative. They wanted to argue about private scholarships, and then they wanted to argue that the same thing would happen in local scholarships. They need to understand the distinction. Private scholarships come at the term and condition where you need to work for the benefit of that private company alone. But as a local, as a state, you require this person to work for your government, which means that now you have highly skilled individuals working in the most accessible infrastructures possible. Because if they want to argue that they want to have the masses on the ground, we think that it's so much more likely for you to have these people benefiting a lot. The moment you have the most credible people within your government, the moment you have all these people actively working their asses off in order to benefit the people on the ground, they need to prove to us why people studying in their own social enclaves would suddenly bring about this tangible change, because we don't think that happens at any point in time. Secondly, they wanted to argue how the local education could be good, and they didn't tell people this. We don't think so, because the characterization that they wanted to bring is that the state is already very low on funds, which means that they need to concede that their schools are never going to be as good as Harvard and Oxford. Their schools are never going to be as reputable and never going to have the proper infrastructures for them to actually bring about credited people if that's what they so badly want, because that is something that only opposition can bring to in this way, given that we concede that economical crisis will exist. They can argue to us that, oh, it's burdening for the state to do so. We think that it's a fair trade-off. If it means that it's so much more possible for us to solve the economical crisis as soon as possible, we think that it's a worthy trade-off. We think that is something the state should actively do in this debate, right? Thirdly, how they wanted to argue on the benefiting the mass thing. I think I already answered this, how we solve this problem the fastest. Number 5, when we POI them how people would return and then there's a benefit. We already told you in our policy that every time the state gives these people scholarship, we want these people to return. We've set terms and conditions like you have to work for the state for a period of 10 years, given that we provide you these scholarships. We set things like this so we make it an obligation for these people to return home. But if anything, like we think that is so much better, because the comparison on their side of the house is that they always keep people in the ground. They always suppress people. So if the DPM always want to come and talk, if the DPM wants to come and talk about nationalism, we don't think this exists. Why? Number one, your nationalism is never tangible. The moment you actively suppress a child from achieving his dreams, you tell him, you dictate him as to what he should study, which means that you tell that child that it's reasonable for him to self-actualize, to self-internalize the anger that he has towards the state, which means there's no incentive for the child to ever work hard to benefit his people on the ground. We tell you that the flip side of it on op is so much better. Why? Because you help these people achieve their dreams. You help these people achieve their goals, so you tell them that I've helped you, you help me back. on government, you tell these people, no, you listen to me. I don't care about your dreams. I don't give two shits about your dreams, because all I want is my country to progress. But your company will never progress. None of these people actually have any incentive to help your state progress. So one simple question or one simple substantive I'll answer to you in this debate as to why MNCs would fund into Malaysia and how this is extremely important. First question, why MNCs would want to fund into Malaysia in the first place? Because given that the characterization on opposition, we have a lot of credited people from universities like Harvard and Oxford who come back to the country. This is important. Why? Because MNCs are always going to be profit-oriented, which means that at the end of the day, the end goal of a MNC is to make the most money. And the most money can always be made by an MNC the moment you have highly skilled people who work under your MNC. The moment you have people with really good educations, reputable people who work within your company, we think only then these MNCs will actually be able to garner the most productivity possible. So given that this is an image, and given that Ivy Leagues are the only universities who can actually bring this reputation that MNCs so badly want, what are the three benefits that will exist? Number one, you have highly skilled manpower within your nation. So you have people who are actually good at what they do, people who are actually recognized by the world for what they do, which is better, because now you have more tangible development within your nation itself. If they want tangible benefits within your education system, we think that is something we bring a lot more. We think that a lot more people who are really credited can bring a lot more tangible change to the nation. But before I move on, any POIs? No. Okay, second benefits. How we will have MNCs who actively fund into Malaysia. Why would MNCs want to fund that? Because we think the MNCs are always going to be profit-oriented, right? So they would always want to make the most productivity, the most end result as possible. How is this beneficial? Number one, you have people on the ground who get a lot of jobs. A lot of people on the ground can actively come out of the poverty cycle if it means that they get good pays. But even if the flip side of it is that people still get a lot more jobs. If their argument is going to be about economical crisis, we think we saw the economical crisis even faster in these circumstances. But secondly, we told you that your local universities can expand a lot more, given that you have highly skilled people who actively work within the state to benefit your local education system. We think that is when your local education system can actually cater to the mass and actually bring about tangible benefits to people on the ground. Thirdly, we also told you how we saw the economical crisis that much faster. If it means that we get to bring a lot more jobs to people, if it means that we get to have MNCs who actively supply and fund money into your country, they actively invest into your countries, that is when we think that we actively solve economical crisis that government wants to talk about. We think we bring about the most tangible change in this area.
Putting out the
One of the points that side opposition actually said was, oh, we want our people to go to a more famous, a better university that that will benefit the students more. Well, one thing I want to say, why can't we be that country who can actually educate people, that we can produce so many successful people and be the country which is well known. And okay, let's take this for example. So if we say that one person, a successful person, came on stage and say, "Oh, I came from this country, and my education center was actually from somewhere else." People will only care about where they got their education from, because firstly, they say that, "Oh, actually, that place taught them well, and this what brought them to that position." And stuff like that. So people will eventually say that, oh, I would only like that place, and then say that I would support that certain university, and say that, oh, and then slowly people in Malaysia will believe that and go to other places and countries to have their education.
You can never be that country who has a great university in terms of law or technology, because your country is in an economical crisis and they can never provide sufficient infrastructure for you to be as good as MIDP or Harvard.
Well, we are here to change it, okay? So if people come back to Malaysia and just to come back to Malaysia and have our education, other people will think that and when they actually go up to a higher position, people will actually think that Malaysia is such a good country and I want to get my education from there. And then slowly, we are not saying that, oh, we're going to fix this when I snap my finger. We are saying that we're going to change this really slowly and say that we are going to improve the reputation of our country, and we are gonna slowly, we don't even you noticing, you can actually change your own country's, you can actually change your country's population, and you also can let other country people come here and you can earn more money for your country without even realizing it. And after we have a really good university and we have people wanting to come to Malaysia, so people will actually start to notice Malaysia, and one day we might even become that country that produces really good students that will improve the whole world. And before I move on,
does the current nation's economical situation weigh more than the scholars' education?
wait, can you repeat that?
Does the current nation's economical situation weigh more than the scholars' education?
Well, we are saying that we want to hold responsibility for what our students learn, and we want to teach them what we think is correct. And we don't know what they learn from outside of the world. Maybe they're learning the different things that we think is correct, and we will never know that. We want to hold responsibility and educate our students better, so that other people will think the same. Other countries will think the same way. And we are not saying that we are doing this because we really we are not saying that we don't care about our students' education, and we want to do it for the sake of ourselves as well. So we are doing this because we think we are capable of leading people and making them into a really useful people in the future. And we can also make sure, double confirm, that we teach our students what they need to know to make them more successful. And before I continue this,
how can you make more contributions to productive students if all the skill gaps, training, experience all come from Malaysia as well, without any international exposure?
Well, that can be something else. So people like teachers can come from other countries, and they can also voice out other opinions about what they think from this, what they think about this case. And they also students also can learn more about it, and they can also they can learn from them, and we won't only care about this little tiny thing, and make our country well known. And so, in conclusion, what I brought you today was other than only because of our country is facing money problems and stuff like that, we are also trying to help the students learn what we think is correct, and we also try to manage them well. And I also told you of how we want people to know our country well and to increase our popularity. For that, you should set yourself as a government.
Saying a matter of love.
are the best of the best. Imagine them being constricted to better studies overseas. This is what the government are actually stating, and how they are actually thinking, and how we are supposed to teach our scholars. Before I move on to my extensions, I would like to rebut on a few of the member of the opposition of the government's points. So, if they want the best for their scholars without other international exposure, we cannot expose them to other international contributions. We will not know how the international community will teach their students, and our current Malaysian financial crisis, as they stated, will actually affect the current scholars' studies in Malaysia itself. Before that, we want to do the best for our scholars. But in Malaysia, we can't do it because we can't do these ideologies, because in Malaysia, because of this without international exposure, we will not know how we will actually express our students when they go overseas. When they finish graduation in Malaysia, they will not know how to expose themselves to other international contributions. So moving on to my extensions, if we allow the scholars to other countries, we will actually represent Malaysia even further. Because when we go to other countries, they will actually be bringing their names to that university itself. In that university, when the student is, because scholars are the best of the best, they are the top students that actually achieve scholarship from the Malaysian government. When they go to other universities, they will actually be bringing the name of Malaysia themselves towards other countries. And this will actually represent Malaysia further, and this will benefit Malaysia even economically, and it will actually improve Malaysia's prowess internationally. Other than that, they will actually be bringing, if they without international exposure, if scholars actually go internationally, students will actually be able to practice what they specialize in. For example, let's say Malaysia does not have the capability to teach quantum physics as an example. So from here, those students who actually want to specialize in quantum physics are not able to do it in Malaysia, because Malaysia does not have the facilities. Therefore, they cannot do anything in their power to actually give the ideology of that study. If they go outside the country itself, they will actually be showing that Malaysia, even at an early stage, is actually showing that they have the power to teach their students things that are basic. But when the scholars are the best of the best, when they go to other universities, they will actually be representing Malaysia, and they will be able to actually contribute to Malaysia themselves by actually learning more than what Malaysia is able to produce. Yes.
Why can't Malaysia prosper by being good themselves, by producing good graduates themselves? Why do you have to go to another country to make Malaysia proud at the end of the day? Because in the first place, these people are just like Malaysia.
Well, scholars in their mindset, they actually are studying in Malaysia at the first place before going to any other universities. So therefore, they are actually going to the universities to further their studies, but then they will actually benefit Malaysia themselves by actually learning in other universities and using their knowledge to actually help Malaysia and show them that they could be leaders of a topic, leaders of a study. This is how it will actually show how it will help back Malaysia. Next, our stance is that we want the best for our graduates. We want the best for our scholars. But then, if we want the best graduates, we have to go to other countries, because as the Prime Minister stated, that Malaysia is again in a current financial crisis. Well, if that's so, we can't get that from our country because other countries will actually have the facilities to actually produce the best of the best. And when those graduates come back to Malaysia, they will actually be one of the leaders of a study, the leaders of a topic. They will be professors, they will be lecturers in the universities in Malaysia. They could easily come back to Malaysia and study and teach them there, which actually benefit Malaysia more than if the government's idea to put them in their universities. They'll not just be teaching them the same thing over and over again, but then it will just be the same repetitive knowledge that they have. If we send them to other countries, we will be actually giving them more new knowledge that isn't available in Malaysia. Therefore, when they come back, and if they choose to become a lecturer, a professor in a Malaysian university, which is the best they could think of, this is what will happen. And this is how it will actually benefit Malaysia more. It will be teaching Malaysia, and it will be giving future Malaysian scholars more international exposure so that they can continue on with their current knowledge, and they will actually further expand Malaysia's prowess in the international community. And with that, I've never been found.
Let's take a really sorry.
I want to adopt you as my son. You're so cute. Oh my god. I was like trying to hold in my squeals. Yeah.
So on-site closing government, we believe that Malaysian government should send all its scholars to local public universities. So in my speech, I will be only doing rebuttals. So opening opposition said that they want the competition in Malaysia to be higher so that they can prove Malaysia's intelligence and in foreign countries. But if we have the competition higher, locals won't be popular and will not be well known. People will only care where they study and not where they come from. So, and if they only care about where they study, Malaysia won't be popular, and this is not actually benefiting the country. And some Malaysians citizens aren't as smart, so this won't actually help Malaysia. To my next point, opposition also said that if Malaysia has so many smart people that they want to send to, yes.
I talk about competitiveness with other Malaysians for higher, more stricter scholarships, not about competing with older university scholarships.
If Malaysia has so many smart people that went to Cambridge, Oxford, and Yale and all those, how would this benefit Malaysia? The government should send all the smart people in Malaysia to local universities so that the universities in Malaysia will become popular and so that Malaysia would become noticeable, not send their students to abroad. And if they send students to abroad, this won't actually help Malaysia because Malaysia has so many smart students, and why not send them to local universities instead of abroad ones? Op said that they will send them abroad and send them back, and this will benefit the country. But like I said, people will actually only care about where they study and not where they come from. So, and take for example, this smart guy in Malaysia graduated and studied in Oxford, but was originally from Malaysia. But no one will care about where they come from and where they studied in. Only they will care about, oh, I want to go to this university because this smart guy graduated there. So how would this actually benefit the country when everyone will only look at the university and not the country? Op also said that only other countries can give the best for Malaysian scholars. But this isn't true because they're just judging the book by its cover. All Malaysian students can have this mindset. All Malaysian students have this mindset that Malaysian schools don't provide good education. Yes.
Given the characterization is Malaysia is an economically thriving country, how do you then prove that Malaysia is capable of providing as much as Harvard or MIDP students?
We're not saying that they can provide as much as Harvard and all those popular universities, but I'm sure they can just do as well if the government improves on their education. And yeah, so it's not true that only other countries can give the best for Malaysians. This isn't true because you guys are just judging the book by its cover. Let's say, for example, Taylor's University. They can also be as good as Harvard and Yale if they try their best. So with this, I would like to end my speech.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to wait on
In a world where scholars who are also known as the best of the best from Malaysia are constricted to studying in only local universities is not a world side opposition wants to live in. Okay, so before I move on to my extensions, I would like to rebut on what side government has said. So they talked about how they talked about how Malaysia is facing financial crisis. Yes, that's true, which is exactly why they should be going overseas to represent all of these to represent Malaysia, because if they go because you have to understand that scholars, they're already the best people in Malaysia. So of course they will have the qualifications and the capabilities to get into all of these top universities like Harvard and Yale and Oxford. So when they go there and when they come back to Malaysia, and then this will help more to help raise the name of Malaysia, because when they go back and then someone asks them, what university are you from? And then you say, I'm an Oxford graduate. I'm a Malaysian Oxford graduate. That would help make Malaysia better, rather than saying that I was in University Malaya, I was in Taylor's University, because not many people from other countries know about these certain universities and colleges. So it does not really help with the economical crisis that Malaysia is facing right now.
Okay, they also said that okay. Also, what they said that they will be making good names only for themselves. This is not true because, like I said, they still go to these other countries as Malaysian citizens. So therefore, they are representing Malaysia in an even better way rather than just constricting themselves to study only in local universities, which are which would not. Like what the opening opposition said, they will never be as good as Harvard and Oxford because it is Malaysia. You have to concede that Malaysian universities are never going to be as good as those schools. So therefore, it is much better for those scholars to actually study overseas in those types of countries and everything because they have the qualifications. So when they study that, they get better education for themselves and for Malaysia. So this would help with the economical crisis. So what the deputy leader of opposition said, that when they go to if they are stuck in just local universities, they're not going to work hard. Why is that so? Because their mindset is going to be, okay, I know, so I might be better than everyone else, but still, I'm going to end up in a local university anyway, and no one's going to recognize my skills. So what's the point of me working harder when all I get is the exact same thing every other Malaysian gets? Nothing extra, even though my qualifications are higher, even though I am better, I'm smarter. So at the end, they're not going to work hard, and they're just going to end up like everyone else, although they have the capability to be much better than all of the other Malaysians. And when they can actually be able to study in all of those top universities in the world. The leader of opposition said that when they get a degree, if they get a degree from Oxford, and then when they come back, of course, like what I said, it's going to help it would definitely help more with the financial crisis that Malaysia is facing right now, rather than if they're just stuck here. Because, like I said, not many people know about Malaysia's universities. I mean, how many people in the world know about Taylor's University in Malaysia or University Melayu? Because after all, these are all just like local universities, and not all of these other high top other countries, they all know about it. Because if you graduate from a university such as Oxford, they're going to be like, wow, this Malaysian graduated from Oxford. Therefore, he or she is better than therefore he or she was raised in Malaysia, which means that the Malaysian is much better. Sit down. Okay, and moving on to what my member of opposition said. He said that of course what the opening opposition talked about was more about the economy. Now we are going to talk about the students and their education and for their future, because why is it justified that the government should not just constrict all of these scholars who are the best of the Malaysians in just a local university where all of the other Malaysians study too? He said that we got to think about their future also, because if you just constrict them, you are jeopardizing their future when they could end up in one of those, like they could end up becoming the CEO or like the owner or something so much better. But when you get the Malaysian education, you have to concede that it will never ever be as good as those educations in all of those foreign countries, those top schools, because that's just the way it is. Malaysia is not going to be as great as all these schools unless a miracle happens. Sit down. Okay. And you also said that without international exposure, how are they supposed to become better? Which is true, because Malaysia does not have these facilities like those other countries have. Because like he was talking about quantum physics. It's quite rare, and like not many people I know about it, but that might be someone's passion and that person has potential in doing so. But because Malaysia does not have all of those, because Malaysia is not like that, Malaysia does not have those facilities, he will never be able to follow his passion, and he will never be able to become what he could have became if he actually studied in other universities overseas. So the government did not prove how they were actually going to
the financial crisis right now, because they did not. All they was talking about is like what's happening with Malaysia and stuff like that. They did not actually prove how by letting them study at local universities, it would actually better and make Malaysia better. But on the government side, we did prove that, because when you go to other countries, you represent Malaysia. So on a scale, let's just say that our worst case scenario is better than your best case scenario. Let's just say that those people do not come back to Malaysia, so either way, if they study, if they end up in those other foreign countries, what if someone comes up to them and they say, where are you from? And you say like, I'm from Malaysia and I graduated from Oxford. So of course this way, it indirectly helps Malaysia, because people start to know more about Malaysia, and like, oh, you know, he was raised in Malaysia, and you know, because of that, he became so much better. So if you want to go for a side which will actually help with the financial crisis that Malaysia is facing, go with side up.
Thank you. We'll take a moment to deliberate, and then please get outside. You may cross floors and shake hands. This how very fine see comment.